I often get questions from clients who are considering buying a new Tonearm or a new cartridge, and they ask me about matching. What's a good match, they ask, between this Tonearm and that cartridge or whatnot. And I frequently respond with just saying, why bother with such a question? But I confess I'm very dismissive of the question, because either you actually need to worry about this question of cartridge Tonearm matching because your turntable isn't properly isolated from the environment and you are playing warps, or you're really managing your turntable and you've got excellent isolation and decoupling and you aren't playing records with warps, in which case it's not a question to be asked at all. And I go into some of the reasons in the previous two soundbite videos. We ask this question when we're not willing to address the fundamental problem. Warps, or low frequency energy, which shouldn't be finding its way to your turntable system through the proper use of effective decoupling and isolation. People who use our tools and services here at WAM Engineering are audiophiles who play at performance levels that, in my opinion, don't need to be asking this question at all. They're doing the work that they need to do to properly isolate their turntable. They're doing the work to avoid playing records that have warps. So the question about the spring system, that is the cartridge and the Tonearm matching, is really, it becomes irrelevant. The only time I might start to get a little concerned about cartridge Tonearm matching is if you're using a highly compliant cartridge. But even then, even if you were, but you had perfectly flat records and wonderful isolation for your turntable, I'm still not convinced that it's terribly important. It just becomes more sensitive to it. If you've done a really good job taking care of those two issues, the warps and the isolation of the table, even with a really highly compliant cartridge, I can envisage you still being in a good place. In future videos, I'll go into some tests that you can take to determine whether you have done a good job on that isolation and decoupling effort. I have had clients complain to me that they didn't think their cartridge and Tonearm were well matched. When I asked them why, they talked about various tonal aspects, playback characteristics that had nothing to do with the spring system that they together create. And these tonal characteristics that they complained about, well, they have nothing to do with the spring system and the resonance of that system. So, we're often, and I've done a video about this as well, we're often hear the problem but ascribe the problem to the wrong reason. So don't be so quick about blaming performance you don't like on poor cartridge Tonearm matching. It's likely that what you're hearing is nothing directly to do with the resonance of the system. When you have hit a particular resonant frequency of your cartridge Tonearm pairing, then you can actually see that resonance. You'll see it shaking up and down or left and right. Or you can hear it. You'll hear a modulated warbling in the playback. These are examples of what it's like to hit your resonant frequency, something that you do want to avoid. Until next week on the next soundbite, see ya.